The Australian Financial Review goes after Martin North. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Once again with a full stein of coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. And I thought we would go through this article, came out on the 6th of September from the Australian Financial Review about Martin North. Now I hadn't read it, John Adams told me about it because frankly he told me it once coming out about him. So they're attacking anyone in the media that's critical of this cash ban. Okay, and this is coming out, the AFR. So I thought I'd read through it and we'd look at it from the perspective of how it's written, because I've noticed a few strategies the author, Aaron here, has used, and think of it from a Pre-Suasion and a Persuasion technique. Now, before we jump into the article, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to recommend two books that people read and plug my Amazon referral link. So these are two books. One is Persuasion, New York Times best-selling author of Influence by Robert Cialdini. And this is a fantastic book. It's really good. We'll look inside. Let's see how that works here. And I mean, okay, it's not a picture book. It's not going to be really good. But, oh, well, there you go. Pet Psychic. She's thinking how absurdly gullible you two are. So that it is a great book just about giving you perspective and understanding about how you can be influenced, manipulated, persuaded by words, terms, people, and the environment around you, and how this can be used by other people to their advantage. And it's a follow-up of his first book that I'm going to plug as well, The Psychology of Influence of Persuasion. And one example he gives there in this book is where the author himself, who is aware of all of this, was at home and a beautiful, sexy girl comes up to sell him these, books that gives you tickets to all these glamorous events around the city. And of course, because it was a beautiful girl, he was even subconsciously trying to show off and say, yes, I go to these events. Yes, I go to this. So, they kind of prompt you in a way to say yes. And you'll see that when you receive emails from people saying, are you interested in more referral links? That type of stuff. And you go, yes, I am. Or more referrals. Yes, I am. It's the same type of thing. These books I recommend anyone in business read and anyone in general read. It'll just give you a better understanding so you can see, hopefully, you won't be a superhero that can't be influenced by these things, but you'll see when it happens. I remember one example that happened to me was when I was negotiating with a client who owed me money and he wanted us to do some work for free, essentially, and said, well, you've got to pay this. And he used the technique saying, oh, well, do it for me, as a favor for him personally. And I relented. I mean, frankly, I'd already given his staff the data anyway. I was just trying to get the money he owed me back, the bastard. Wasn't much. But I didn't realize what he was doing until I read these books. So yes, and I have an Amazon referral link, guys. If you want to support the channel, a tiny portion of your purchase goes to support Heise Says, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for all of you that are making purchases using it. What's this? Oh, there you go. I purchased the item on the 31st of January 2017. So yes, I bought this one. I bought it on Kindle, and I think this one I got on my iPad. So there you go. Maybe I should do a review. It's a great book. It's hardcover, $41. Might actually be worth getting. So recommend those books. And let's now jump over here to have a look to see how, good old Aaron is using similar techniques in how he's writing and setting it up. So here we go. Property skeptic, unbowed by market upturn. Because remember, that 1 month of increase in market prices brought about by 2 interest rate cuts, tax deduction or tax return for a whole lot of people. That's definitely the signal that we've hit the bottom. We've naturally hit the bottom. Yep. So property analyst Martin North has been wrong about the market pretty much since the early 2000s, when he concluded many Australian homeowners had lost touch with financial reality. Okay, now this is an interesting thing. You can be right, but the market can be unreasonable for a long time. That's the challenge, and that's what I'm learning with just analyzing the market. I'm trying to learn how to trade. And just, try and say, okay, there's going to be some volatility here, and then say, okay, they've undersold it, and then it'll come back up. trying to get a feel for it. So you may be right on the money, but the market can remain unrealistic for a time. Since then, the Oxford philosophy graduate's relentless negativism has made him a leading proponent of what some refer to as property bear porn. And this is the first time I've heard this term, bear porn. I hope that doesn't get this video demonetized. An obsession with predicting the many ways in which a rising market that has enriched a generation of Australians will eventually turn bad. Okay. Enriched a generation of Australians. Has it really? Has it really? I mean, think about it. How many people can't afford to buy a house now? How much of our housing sector, particularly in 2016, was the result of our GDP growth? So all this money we've made from the boom has gone into these apartments. And we're seeing, again, Mascot Towers owners this morning, I discussed how some of them can't afford to pay. We're seeing issues rise more and more in this multi-residential construction. And if, say, in 2000, you would have publicly come out and been negative, there's a lot of issues here in the construction industry, there's problems in these buildings. It takes time for these issues to percolate through. Okay, because a lot of people in the game have noticed this for years in the construction game. And I think it's comparable to what's happening here. And enriching a generation at the expense of another generation. I mean, and we can't just have perpetual economic growth. It's not how the system works. It's nearly 0% interest rates. There's only going to be so much we can do. So nobody likes a killjoy. North puts the kill in killjoy. Well, I don't know. At a time when some analysts and hopeful home owners have declared a return of a bull market. Okay, why have they declared a return of a bull market? I don't understand. Can someone explain to me why it's returned? And how can you say that after one tick, 1 month, one data point increase? I mean, someone explain to me, please. Our economy is significantly dependent on iron ore prices. Our budget is dependent on iron ore prices. What's driving it, guys? He argues a US recession could drop down prices 20%, at which point panic selling would kick in. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that claim? We haven't had a point where people have had to foreclose on their homes too much. People are getting at risk. People are getting at risk. But the thing is, people don't want to hear it. You've got two groups of people. You've got all the ones that don't want to hear it, just are happy to go on. And then you've got the others who are preparing. And I think the majority of people who are watching, definitely the content I'm producing with regards to this on my channel, the stuff on North, and listening to Adams, and anyone else who's talking about this, even Nugget News, who are discussing these issues, they're generally preparing. I mean, just let me know in the comments, guys, how many of you have invested in assets to secure your wealth? Let me know how many of you. What's your poison? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it negative yield bonds? What have you been going in to plan for a downturn? So, we have this myopic view from our regulators that everything is okay, he says. Greed has basically driven the banking industry for at least a generation. They've forgotten that they are there to serve their customers. The perennial bearishness of the co-proprietor of husband and wife outfit Digital Finance Analytics, who charges $40,000 a year for 12 consumer surveys, raises a question about the economics of market commentary. Can relentless gloominess be a successful business model? Wow. So notice how they're framing it here. They're framing it that he's trying to make so much money off just this 12 surveys, which is a lot of work. He has to, engage people to do it. And husband and wife outfit, yep, good on you. I mean, I haven't met Martin personally. I haven't spoken to him, but I also work in a husband and wife outfit. And a lot of people will say, how can you and your wife work together? It's really good because it puts everything in perspective. You're not worried about the little things about who's doing the dishes or stuff at home because you're stressing about keeping the business going. Conventional wisdom dictates that investors prefer optimism. Not only is it more uplifting, but falling markets are also harder to profit from. As the saying goes, nobody likes a killjoy, North puts the kill in killjoy. Now, this is a really interesting term because I've been following a young guy just recently he's made a fortune playing the news. So he was ex-Google, just working in Ireland, an Irish guy, and he jumped ship and he wanted to learn day trading, just playing the news. And one thing he said was he made most of his money going short. Shorting the news, shorting a price drop. That's where people make most of the money. Because people are, this is completely true. Everyone prefers optimism when they're investing, when they're bought in. They don't like hearing the negative of when you put something forward. Because everyone wants everything to go up. My investments to go up. And I mean, what frustrates me is seeing all these people on the internet pushing their property system. And we went to an event recently where this way to pay off your mortgage real quick was to take on another mortgage at a higher rate and then negative gear that off your home. That was the strategy, which could work, but what happens if prices go down? Then you're kind of screwed. So, dark clouds. On Saturday, the last day of winter, North said there are some very dark clouds on the horizon. House prices have just recorded their biggest monthly gain since 2017, led by a 1.6% increase in Sydney, which professional investors such as Christopher Joy argue was a turning point in the market after he forecast in April that national house prices would increase by 5% to 10% over the following year. Cool. I mean, guys, I take no stock in anyone saying forecasting price movements. I don't know. It's going to go up 5%. It's going to go up 10%. Maybe it's just my exposure to this all via the crypto world, and people going, gross little coin will be up $5 by the end of the year, and then it's worth 5 cents. People are making these predictions. The thing is, we're dealing with an emergent system. The economy is an emergent, complex system, which making any predictions can be completely thrown out of the window by things beyond anyone's control. Well, okay, let's say all of a sudden, if China just says, okay, we're not importing any more iron ore, boom. What do you think would happen to the Australian economy? What do you think would happen? Think it'd be peaceful? Think it would all go fine? You think Christopher's predictions there would continue? So, yeah. And, 1 month gain, great, good on you. Good for the people that have realized it. But it can disappear just as quick. The house, the fixer-upper that we've bought here, we made, 30% for doing nothing? Just sitting there? There's no skill required, guys, in making money in property. Sure, when you can pretend, but the way the market's been going, how many people have just bought and gotten lucky? Property always goes up. That's what people think. It doesn't. So North was unmoved. A former manager of the National Westminster Bank in the UK, and National Australia Bank, he has long argued that Australians use their home as investment vehicles rather than merely dwellings, and as a result pay more than it should cost to buy land and construct homes from scratch. Yes, he is 100% right there. He is 100% right. You should really talk to developers who are trying to get teams together and the potential returns they're offering you. I'm not talking about architectural teams, I'm talking about investors. I had friends who were, promised a 30% return in 1 year's time on a development. Turned out that the timing didn't work out, but, that just shows you. And so it's Stuart Wimmis, a director of Pro-Solution Private Clients, a Melbourne financial advice firm, says negative investment predictions are more interesting than positive commentary, creating an incentive for analysts to be downbeat. What do you think, guys? I think he's probably right. People are more interested in negative predictions. That's true. People are more concerned. But what was it? Peter Schiff, from his report, he was mentioning that a lot of people who are investing in gold or silver or these type of things tend to not be surprised by what's going on or what's happening because they're essentially keeping an eye on it a bit differently to other people. They're preparing for it. I just can't see. I can't see where the positivity is coming from, rather than hope. Our treasurer is putting hopes that domestic growth in China will continue the demand for one of the major exports of our nation. we've got no control over that at all. Let's just hope. Is that what you want to base your nation, your civilization on? So I tend to ignore Martin's work because it's perpetually alarmist, he says. It's similar to doomsayers. You can keep predicting the end of the world, but after a few failed predictions, most people stop listening. The same is true for perpetually optimistic forecasters too. They have limited value. North denies he uses negativity to attract attention. I don't mind if prices are going up or down, he says. Makes no difference to me. While North's predictive record isn't strong, he is widely cited on property prices, including in the Australian Financial Review. His regular YouTube videos sometimes filled in a khaki hiking top. What? So here you go. Here we go. So notice this, how he's making reference to what he's wearing. He's making, because this is a pre-shadow into what he's going to say before, as a way to frame Martin in a particular way. And we'll mention that again. So he often gets 10,000 views. He has 4,600 Twitter followers, accepts payment in Bitcoin, has appeared on 60 Minutes, where he says prices could fall 40% in a worst case scenario. The TV show left out the qualification. Of course they would. I mean, come on, guys. Sounds interesting. So the UBS conference. Last November, investment bank UBS asked North to be on a property prices panel at an investment conference with its bank analyst, Jonathan Mott, CoreLogic Research Director Tim Lawless, and Joy, who manages some $3.7 billion in bonds. So here we go. North, tireless and carrying a backpack, stuck to his thesis that the property market was dangerously overextended. Okay, so notice here how they're framing North as without a tie and carrying a backpack. So when I think, what's the first term you think when image you get in your head when you think tireless and you think backpack? Backpack, I instantly think of Dora the Explorer. Maybe it's just because I'm a parent, or the author is trying to create images in your mind. He's persuading you, influencing you subconsciously to essentially poison the well or to damage North's reputation. It's interesting once you understand how people use these tactics, these strategies to influence people. And it works. It works. I mean, I'm tireless. I look pretty damn good in a suit. I used to go out of my way. Every day I would wear a suit, I put a tie, pocket square, guys. For the young lads, you want to class up anything? Pocket squares. By surveying 4,200 people every month about their finances, North claims to know more about Australian debts than even the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, which monitors banks' health. APRA concedes it doesn't measure debt issues by companies it doesn't regulate, such as credit card providers. Well, yeah. That seems to make perfect sense. He's actually doing field work. APRA's just a bureaucracy, pretty much. I mean, come on. I tried to make a complaint to APRA about an organisation that wasn't fulfilling safety concerns. I had to go through ASIC and ACCC. So that makes perfect sense. We just look at the differences between the ABS methodology and the Roy Morgan methodology for getting data. I mean, come on, guys. So North, whose wife, Gillian, is a part-time legal academic at Deakin University, moved to Australia from Britain in 1985. He said that even then, when Treasurer Paul Keating was relaxing banking controls, he could see lending standards loosening, a problem he continues to complain about. Before the GFC, I started measuring mortgage stress for cash flow households, he says. In 03 to 06, a lot of households were getting into difficulty. They've got out of jail because the RBA cut rates in 07, 08, but then it started to build again. I've become a lot more worried in the last 6 to 7 years. Last year, he predicted 1/3 of interest-only loans wouldn't be able to afford the compulsory switch to paying off principals, adding to the problem of the 22% of borrowers struggling to pay their mortgages. He didn't see any chance the RBA would cut rates without an economic crisis. Well, I mean, are we in an economic crisis? I did a video the other day looking at the Australian economy since 2008. Since 2008, the Australian economy has been below trend, pretty much half trend on a per capita basis of growth for GDP. That's over 10 years of depressed growth. And I will link to that video up here, and I'm going to write it down. I'll write down the time and to make sure I do it. So I would say that is a crisis. No one's talking about it because it's not politically expedient, but it makes a lot of sense. Everyone who's having trouble getting work, everyone who's having, their kids are having trouble getting work. If the economy is 10% smaller than it should have been, just on average, in 10 years' time, what does that tell you? And our population has grown in that period as well. That's adding to the issue. History shows that Australian house prices have quadrupled over the past 25 years. I mean, come on. Far outpacing inflation. Every dip has been followed by a period of sustained growth. Loan defaults are up, but only to 1%, according to the RBA. Okay, here we go. Now, he is previously here, same author, is claiming that a 1.2% increase, where is it? In the, the market upturn. Okay. This is a 1.2 or 1.6% increase or whatever. He's claiming that is signaling an upturn. But then again, a similar number down here that counters to his argument, he's framing it differently. But only a 1%. But only to 1%. But what's that delta change? If it's from 0.5 to 1%, that's huge. That is a huge change. So that's it. You've got to understand how they frame all these things, and it's written in such a way to influence your thinking, and you've got to be critical of it. You've got to be critical and aware of it, because this is how people are trained. This is their training. This is their profession. This is marketing. In a way, is it news or is it marketing? Let me know in the comments what you think. So, the RBA has cut cash rates to 1% this year to stimulate inflation. Yet 1%, that is insane. Guys, well, look, I'll bring up trading economics and we will have a look at the indicators for Australia. For those of you that aren't aware or are just watching this, our interest rates have not been like that. Look at this here. How many cuts have they done? Since 2000, here we go, last cut. How many cuts have they done? Have they had to do over this period of time to keep the economy going, to keep inflation? They haven't hit their inflation target. Guys, they haven't hit their inflation target, so are they able to manage the economy? So So a useful purpose. Supporters say North and other contrarians serve a useful purpose by making property investors pause and consider the risk before becoming overcommitted to mortgages they can't afford. Being bearish on subprime suburban homogeneous real estate in Sydney and Melbourne would probably make Martin and Joseph and John look very smart one day, says Mark Beveridge, an executive director of Quill Group, a financial services firm. They already look to me like smart, genuine thinking people. We need more of those, not less. Joy counters. I would much prefer to be relentlessly right than wrong on housing, as North has unfortunately been. I honestly think North is thinking of a different time frame. Could he have predicted that rates would have gone down to 1%? He didn't think it was possible. He didn't think it was possible unless there was a major catastrophe. Because have a look at the max data here that that we've got access to. There you go, averaging around 5? 5. So interest rates have been, pretty low. No one would have predicted that. There would be at 1%. So here we go. While auction clearance rates have almost returned to boom time levels, prices are rising. North remains an unapologetic bear. Okay, now I've been doing videos on the clearance rates, and people have been asking why I'm so obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it because, well, not really, but because everyone's talking about it all the time, guys. That's why I'm looking at it, because it seems like BS to me. If they're saying the clearance rates have gone up, when they've had 24 auctions and the data's only based on 2 results, it's pointless. It's pointless. But that's what they're reporting, and no one will ever go back and check what it actually was, because they'll just report on what it is. Because remember, all of this is just human emotion. It's not reality. It's just how we respond to our perception of reality. And that can be influenced by the way that these things are written. And you can find that. Another plug for Persuasion and Influence, guys. I recommend these books. I really do. I really do. They're great books. Definitely worth it. And because Scott Adams introduced me to them. And apparently Cialdini was one of the people that supported Hillary's campaign. And when he came onto the scene, unofficially, her whole narrative changed. And she started using different language and different terms. Now, that's the one advantage that Trump really has going for him. He is a very good persuader, and he knows how to work an audience. He knows how to market things. Regardless of what else you think about him, that's his skill set. That's his skill set. Nonetheless, let's get back to this. So, values might continue to rise a little, he says, but the long predicted market reckoning will likely come in 2020. When over-leveraged owners finally start to bail out of homes worth far less than what they paid, hurting many unsuspecting investors. I don't believe the regulators are adequately across the risks in the banking system, he says. In a downturn, it's the consumers who will get hit. So, interesting piece there by Andrew Patrick. Interesting use of framing and, using certain terms in certain ways. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just the Sydney thing, being tieless compared to Queensland. I mean, our premier, when we had male premiers, they wouldn't even wear ties. It's too bloody hot. And sure, you wear them, but it's a neck noose. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think the persuasion and the persuasion here is rather obvious? Did you pick up on it when you read the article? Do you think Martin is a perpetual contrarian bear? Or is he just warning people of what could happen? Well, it's good times now, that 1.6%. It's good times, guys, good times. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.